Welcome to Phoenix. Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan. I am one half of your Hill Brothers, and only 4 teams remain. That is UConn, Purdue, NC State, and Alabama. As this weekend we get started with the final 4 games and claim a national champion sometime next week. And the challenge for the brackets have been all over the place still, but we're getting closer to the end, and I think a couple of people are now starting to pull away, and I think we're starting to see how this thing's going to place out, man. This is going to be absolutely cool, man. I have absolutely enjoyed doing this entire bracket challenge. It's been so much fun. Seeing how crazy the leaderboards have been throughout the weeks has been great. I've been loving doing these little update videos with you guys. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed seeing this, and hopefully it'll kind of give you a little bit of motivation to jump into some of these in the future that we do. We're looking at doing a couple more potentially sometime in the near future for things. I've kind of got a couple of ideas in my head here, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great time. So let's go kick over to the brackets and see how everybody's doing as we are in our final, or second to last update video. This is awesome, man. Let's go do this. All right, here we go. So here's what we're looking at right now. The rankings sit as today. Sitting at the first place position is David Palm. Second, Eric. Third, Paula. Fourth, me. Fifth, Trevor. Tied for fifth, Ashley and Trevor. Alan in seventh. Ricky at eighth. And Tori at ninth. And at the bottom, Michael Allen at 10th, man. So this thing's been bouncing around a little bit so much so far, but you guys know that I like looking at the group forecast because it does give us a really good idea of who our winners are probably going to be. Because you got to think, after the Final Four, we're into the national championship game. So generally, from what I'm gaining here, kind of taking a look at everybody's bracket, and we'll look at the top 3 with the highest percentage to place in the top 3. We'll look at all 3 of them. These are probably going to end up being your winners. Don't really know the order yet, but we'll see. So sitting with the most highest percentage to win, which is Eric, of 50.1% to win. He is looking really good. It looks like he will definitely place in the top 3. You see a 93.6 percentage rate to place in the top 3. He's definitely guaranteed to place into the top 5. And he's picked a great bracket, man. His best path to win right now is Purdue to win it all, which they look pretty good right now. Zach Edey is getting his thing going, and I'd be very curious to see how they do in this next matchup against NC State, which actually I have Purdue winning that game, because I actually had Purdue losing to Tennessee in the Elite Eight. That didn't happen, and they did a great job. So let's take a look over here at Eric's bracket, and let's see how he's doing. How did he have the Final Four matchups going? And he did have UConn beating Illinois. He had Kentucky over Houston, which obviously ended up being Duke versus NC State. And I'm honestly, I'll be real with you as a Tar Heel fan, I'm glad NC State beat Duke, but now I need Purdue to knock out the Wolfpack there. He did have Baylor over North Carolina in the Final Four, which I ended up being Alabama over Clemson. And by the way, people kind of got on me when I was doing the North Carolina post-game reaction to North Carolina versus Alabama when I said that Clemson versus Alabama would be a very fun game. By God, it was. And you cannot tell me that wasn't a good, fun back-and-forth game to watch there. But he did have Purdue over Creighton in the Final Four, which ended up being Purdue over Tennessee. So he did end up getting those 80 points there to help him out. In the Final Four, he's got Purdue. He had picked Purdue over Kentucky, which you can just roll that over to Purdue over NC State. And he did have Baylor over UConn, which is interesting to say that he had Baylor getting all the way down to the Final Four, actually into the national championship game. Holy smokes, man, that is nuts, bro. Hey, he told me he was going to have some wild picks when he signed in, when he emailed in that he wanted to be a part of it and everything. He said, don't judge him, that he was going to have some wild picks, and by God, he did. But it looks like with these wild picks, he's probably still going to win this daggum bracket. So congratulations to him, man. He does have Purdue as his champion, and right now he's our front runner unless something happens, especially on this side over here with NC State and Purdue. All right, next up, let's look at Paula's bracket here, as she has a 35.8% chance to win it all and a 79.6% chance to finish into the top three. So right now, her best path to win is UConn to reach the national championship and Purdue to not win it all. So kind of curious to see how this one ends up going. She does have a really good percentage right now to place into the top three. 80% basically. You can go ahead and round that up to place in the top three, which is good. But I'm curious to see how that would change if UConn was to get knocked off, which I don't expect to happen. I think UConn's a really good basketball team, and it's really a toss-up between them and Purdue to win the national championship, in my opinion. There, just you don't know what could happen between the two teams when they get the ball rolled out there on the court. But let's take a look at hers really quickly and see how she did in the Elite Eight. All right, so here we are. She ended up having UConn over Iowa State in the Elite Eight matchup, which ended up being Illinois. And I picked, UConn and Illinois to face off, and I did pick UConn to beat Illinois, but I did not expect them to win like that. That surprised me. A 30-0 run in that game. That is flipping nuts for a team to be able to do that to somebody. That is nuts, man. So UConn's stout, dude. But she had UConn beating Iowa State, ended up being Illinois there, but she also had Kentucky over Houston in the Elite Eight, which I ended up being NC State over Duke. I don't think hardly anybody, or I don't know. I'd be very fascinated to find out if anybody who picked the bracket had Duke and NC State in the Elite Eight there. I'm pretty sure there's probably somebody out there, probably an NC State fan, to be honest, but I did not see that matchup coming at all. And on the bottom side, she had Purdue over Tennessee, which ended up being the case, and Arizona over North Carolina, which ended up being Alabama over Clemson there. So right now, her final four, as it sits today, is UConn over Arizona, which that would be Alabama if she got that right. And then it would be Purdue over Kentucky, which that would be NC State now as well. So her brackets looked really good throughout the year, throughout the tournament. And, only a couple of misses in the early going. And that's really been it so far, as you can see here. So those are our two most likely to win, as we can see right here. But it kind of drops down to this person's, which I believe that is David, if I'm not mistaken here. Let me look at this really quickly. It is David. So right now, what he's looking at right now is a 14.1% chance to win, a 40.9% chance to finish into the top three. Then that's the number. But here's something I have found here. Hat 4, just below him, has actually got a 50%, not a chance to win, but a 50% chance to place into the top three. So here's where it's going to get interesting between Ricky and David here, because I think clearly this is going to be your 1-2. Somewhere, somehow, some way, it's going to be your 1-2, whether it be Eric number 1 and Paula 2, or vice versa. But the third spot is going to be extremely interesting. And Allen is also right there with 35% chance to win the third place prize. After that, nobody else can get there. I think after that, it's Trevor with 0.6%. And then I've got 0% chance to finish the top three. And so from there on out, there's no chance for anybody else outside of what seems to be a 5-team race here for well, you got 1 and 2, and then you have like a 3-team race here for number 3. So I'm curious to see how this happens. The person with the most max points is Allen with 1180 that he can gain totally. Only 1120 for Ricky and 1040 for Dave here. So he's got a 14.1% chance to win it. And his best path to win is Alabama to reach the national championship game. So I guess he has that in there. We're going to take a look at his right here in a second. And Purdue not to win it all. So let's see how he does here. Does he have Alabama beating? He does. Alabama over UConn. Now, he originally picked Houston to win the national championship game, and he had Houston over Purdue there to beat them in the Final Four here. In the Elite Eight, he had UConn over Illinois, which is correct. He had Houston over Marquette, which ended up didn't happen. That was NC State over Duke. And then he had Purdue over Tennessee, got that correct, and Alabama over Arizona, which ended up being Clemson. So he's done really good on this side of the bracket for sure. I'm gonna say he's done really good even outside of the Houston pick there. So this is kind of wild, man. If Alabama's on a roll right now, they've really started to do better defensively. And they're knocking down shots. They're knocking down some crazy shots, just like NC State. They're pretty much mirroring each other right now. So they definitely have a puncher's chance against UConn. I still favor UConn pretty heavily in that matchup right now. And quite frankly, I just wonder what the over and under is on that game right now. Wow, actually, currently right now, UConn is favored 11.5 over Alabama. So that's a pretty big spread there, but also very understandable considering how good UConn has been this year. It has been nuts. So David's looking really good there. I'm not gonna lie. That's a pretty nice underrated bracket that he's got there. So let's take a look also at Ricky's, who's got a 50% chance here to finish in the top three. So the best out of David, Ricky, and Allen here. Let's take a look at his. He doesn't have a chance to win at all. In the Elite Eight, he had Iowa State over UConn, which ended up being UConn over Illinois. He had Houston over Marquette, which is Duke and NC State. And he had Purdue over Tennessee, correct, and North Carolina over Arizona. So his Elite Eight was pretty busted up, pretty bad there. In his Final Four, it's surprising to me that he's actually able to place into the top three. I guess really what helps him there is the Purdue National Championship. I think that's his biggest aid. But he has Iowa State in the national championship. He had them beating North Carolina, which would be UConn and Alabama there. And then he had Purdue over Houston, which would be Purdue and NC State. So he still has a chance to get that right. And then the national championship game correct there. So that's interesting right there. That I'm surprised just kind of looking at the entire bracket. I'm honestly really surprised that he is in the running for the top and has the best percentage out of those last three there to win that third spot. It's pretty crazy to see, but hey, don't you love March Madness, man? It is crazy and it is the madness. You got to love it so much, man. But let's take a look at Allen now. All right, so Allen is here with his Elite Eight being UConn over Illinois. He had that correct. He had Houston over Kentucky, which ended up being NC State over Duke. Then he had Purdue over. He had Tennessee over Purdue. Wow. Okay. All right. I had the same thing myself. I can't go against that. I definitely had the same thing. He had North Carolina over Baylor in the Elite Eight there, and then he had UConn over North Carolina in the Final Four, which would be Alabama, and then Houston over Tennessee. So you had UConn and Houston in the national championship game, but we have Purdue and NC State on that side right now. So honestly, Allen's done pretty good throughout the bracket here. Only a couple of misses, but it was just misses that things you wouldn't even think were misses, like FAU or Northwestern. You would have thought they would have won. You definitely would have thought Auburn would have beat Yale. BYU getting beat by Duquesne in the first round. He did have Texas Tech just like I did. I should not have picked Texas Tech. I should have picked NC State just like I was thinking about doing. But that's neither here nor there. And then like Oakland over Kentucky. So Allen's got a pretty good bracket. He's been pretty solid throughout the entire sweepstakes here. Him and his wife both have been pretty good at it. It just seems like a couple of things have switched and really switched this thing on its head to where these two right here have clearly taken number one here. So this is going to get interesting, guys. I am absolutely looking forward to seeing how this thing wraps up. I'm pretty sure that we're honestly looking at our 1 and 2 here, and then a battle for third. So this is going to be fun. It's going to be a great end to it. I cannot wait for this weekend to see how they do. I'm going to be in Philadelphia this weekend, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do an update. Maybe I can just, update you guys just a little bit because I will be away from my computer and everything during the weekend here. So once the Final Four is done, I'm going to try and do one more update, see how this national championship game is going to go. and it's going to be really interesting because the national championship game will be the day that I come back. So I'll be back on Monday evening, sometime around I think 5 o'clock. So when we fly back in, so definitely going to be interesting. We're going to be looking forward to it. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed these little update videos, and we are just 2 rounds away from being done. We have Final Four in the national championship game, and then there's going to be winners. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this, and it'll maybe get you guys to want to hop into some of these challenges in the future, man. I love doing this. It's been absolutely fun, and I enjoyed so much. But hey, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here, and go Heels.
You don't want none.